Let's continue then Genesis chapter 1 verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so. And God made the earth, beasts of the earth according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that creeps in the ground according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Right, so here we are starting to get the day 6. Right? What happened on day 6? Creation of bigger land animals. Um, Different kinds, right? There's livestock, there's creeping things, and beasts. So beasts would be the wildlife, livestock, essentially ultimately now the domesticated animals, and the creeping things, all the kinds of animals that go low on the ground. Okay, um, that is that was created on this day, the start of the day. We will see in chapter 2 that a lot more happened on that day than just this creating of animals. In these verses, 3 different kinds of animals, um, and as well the creation of man. Later on, as we'll see from verse 26 onwards. Right, so this is the creation then of animals, different kinds of animals, and again we saw that God said it was good. Like he said, after most of the days, that everything he created was good. Verse 26. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heaven, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created him. Right, again, in these verses there are a lot. And a huge lot of controversy throughout the ages. Things like being made in the image of man. What does that mean? Image and likeness of man. Is image one thing, likeness another thing. After in chapter 3, where Adam and Eve go into sin, is that then which part did we lose? Image part? Did we lose a likeness part? Did we lose all of it? So throughout the centuries, Christians have been debating, have been thinking about this, and different denominations, different groups came to different conclusions depending on ultimately their understanding of it. So let's try and make some sense of what is happening here, because it's important. It's like everything is important, and this is as well. So it's a very controversial topic, so it is very important. It will play into the role how salvation ultimately actually works. So God saying in verse 26 of making us make man. Right. So here first the question started arise: who is this us that God is speaking about? Okay. So we have different kind of solutions to this. Again, no theologian is really coming out there and saying that this is exactly what us means. Different uh, possibilities of the word us is, for example, that he's speaking like the Queen of England would speak when she speaks of majestic we, right? So we, it's not only the Queen of England, you actually even find in a language like in Russian, where you get the small letter V and the capital letter V, which means the one is it's like us, and the other one is spelled exactly the same, but it's not a small letter, it's a capital letter, and it's denoting someone, like to try and give more respect to one person. Okay, so you do get this in different kinds of languages to denote then in a certain sense even respect or the kingly eye kind of idea. right? A different opportunity or explanation is that God is speaking to angels here. Now, it seems that God is like us, like deliberating. Now, God didn't deliberate with any angels or anyone for that matter in creating anything. God just created. So, is he just stating a fact then to angels? Not a question or not a deliberation, but just a stating to angels that this is what he's going to do. The other is understandably, as Christians, after knowing that there is a Spirit, coming back as well to verse 2, where the Spirit was hovering over the waters, knowing that Christ in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, John 1:1, and that Christ was there, and then ultimately, according to John, more explanation of it. But, so yes, we as Christians can therefore see that in this us there might be the idea of Trinity involved. But for the people who read this, like I mentioned earlier as well already in some of the other, one of the other videos we already made, that the people at that stage had no concept of the Trinity. It was still something that was hidden to them. So to then say, okay, here if they use the word us, they would have understood the Trinity. They could not have understood the Trinity. If we can understand the Trinity, we can see it. So did God put it in there already for us later to see that there's a Trinity here involved? Well, I mean, that's that ultimate fulfillment, yes, in the Trinity. Ultimate pointing that there's a Trinity, but I don't want to go as far as to say that this is already what it's pointing towards. So what exactly the us here means, just a deliberation, just a kingly eye, no one that I could really find is giving a real certain, and we can't really therefore say for certain what the us means here. The word for God that they use in chapter 1, Elohim, is plural. So that might be as well sort of kind of playing in here. That there are other gods involved here, sure. Other gods involved, sure not. Right? But yeah, okay. So we need to continue on that one. Now, the making of man in our image, or our likeness. Here in ESV and other versions, it seems as if it's like two things: image and likeness. Now, people try to understand what is made in the image and what is made in the likeness. And some people come up with the idea of God has 2 arms and legs. I mean, weird people out there. God doesn't have 2 arms. Jesus, sure, as Jesus man, sure, but God doesn't. God is spirit. So it's not like I can say, oh, there's God, so we have 2 eyes. We have no, sure not. Okay, so that can't be. And so ultimately, here the idea is, if you go back to the Hebrew here, that this image likeness. So it's not two opposing things, or even 2 different things. So sure, not opposing, but 2 different things. It's the same thing. It's made in the image likeness. Right? It would be better to just say made in God's image likeness, right? Than to put an and there, for example. Okay, so therefore it comes a little bit easier. It's just one thing, so we need to understand what image likeness therefore means. So again, already I said that it's not that God has eyes, ears like we have, although in the Bible it speaks like that. It's anthropomorphic language. In other words, giving some human attributes to gods, like speaking in gods in human terms, anthropomorphic, because otherwise we can't really understand certain things. But it is already some of the things that God is clearly immediately after this going to show us. It's always good to read just in the context of what God is going to show. Answers can more often than not find in verses either before or afterwards. After this, God is going to give man dominion, right? That they need to have dominion over everything. So image likeness, therefore, would be that God is delegating some of what He is, some of who He is, to man. God has the power of everything, so he is delegating to man now that they need to have dominion. God has dominion absolutely over everything, and he is giving some, right, to man. Here just a point to show that God is so different than humans. As far as I remember, Churchill said that power corrupts, power absolutely corrupts. Kind of, not a direct quote, but something like that. So for us as man, when we get power, we don't want to hand over to other people. Not just in the world, even in the church. A pastor, he becomes pastor in the church, he gets his power, he builds his kingdom, which is wrong. And then he, when time comes that he needs to give over to someone, some new pastor comes in because the previous pastor has been there for 30 years, he's now too old, he can't go on, he needs to go in pension, whatever, retire. I've seen it so many times, he sort of stays in the same place because this is all he knows, and he starts to really influence the church. He keep on influencing the church even though there's now a new pastor, and it creates so many problems so often, right? So we don't want to give over our responsibilities, or when the time comes, we want to keep all the power for ourselves. But what God is doing here is he is delegating these responsibilities to humans. Okay? So take an example from God here. When you're in a place, don't hold on to something in ministry or whatever, right? Remember, even your family, your children, it doesn't belong to you, it ultimately belongs to God. So when the time comes for you to hand over your church, hand over your business, hand over your child, ultimately that they leave home and go and study, you need to, like God, let them go. Okay? Give them the power, let them grow in this world.